Okay, well, we're going to get started. I'm sure we'll have some more people join shortly, but in the interest of everyone's busy schedules and it being in the middle of the day, I think we're going to get started. So welcome. Today is our second NPAN Live, and we're really excited. Today is all about regenerative brand strategies for small meat brands, but really it's like for meat processors, meat brands, small farmers, small businesses of all kinds. I had the privilege of getting to spend some time with Claire yesterday and seeing a little preview of her presentation. This is applicable. This isn't just about meat brands. This is applicable to everyone. And so I'm really excited about what we're going to be going over. Before we dive in, we've got a couple of things to go over. Just who is NPAN? We've got some new faces here, some folks that I haven't seen before. So NPAN that's our colloquial nickname for the Niche Meat Processor Assistance Network. I'm David Sarling. I'm the program manager of NPAN, and we're an extension-based community. Based out of Oregon State University. Although we're national, we're even kind of global. Ultimately, we're a community of practice that serves small meat processors and brands. We help them thrive through a growing community of shared information, innovation, and educational resources. So basically, we provide technical assistance. We're kind of like a live help desk for small meat processors and brands. We give grant advice and assistance. We don't write grants, but we do reviews. We have just a very deep bench of educational resources, and we have a peer-to-peer network. We have a listserv, a Google group. If you Google NPAN, you can join a very professional, industry-focused, moderated group of professionals that like to talk about the meat industry. Who makes up NPAN? So we're mostly meat processors, but we're also 20% academia, extension, and regulatory agents. We've got industry reps. There's always vendors and people who represent different parts of the supply chain other than just the manufacturing segment. So we've got logistics, we've got 3PL providers, we've got suppliers and vendors and marketers and salespeople and cold storage and the whole 9 yards. 20% of our community is livestock producers. We've got retail shops and just consumer packaged good brands. It's a pretty great mix. So welcome. Thanks for joining us under the tent today. In short, our mission is to help small meat processors thrive by growing our shared wealth of information and innovation. But ultimately, we're part of the Oregon State University agricultural community, right? So this isn't just, it's like high tide floats all boats. It's not just meat processors that can benefit from the things that we put together. We offer tools and technical assistance for small meat processors and farmers, marketers, and meat buyers who depend on them. And then we want to incorporate the whole array of interests involved in the supply chain, not just the manufacturing segment, but everybody from start to finish. And as Claire and I were talking about yesterday, this is all kind of evolving to be less of a supply chain and more of a supply web or network, ultimately, at the end of the day. So that's us, and that's Claire. So welcome, Claire, and I'm gonna let her take it away momentarily. Before we dive in, though, we just wanted to put a poll out just to kind of get a sense of where we're all at here, literally and figuratively. So I'm gonna launch this, if you don't mind, sharing your thoughts and information via some multiple choice. Let's see. Okay, we'll just take a couple of minutes if you don't mind. Hopefully everybody can see that. While you're filling that out, just a little bit about Claire and Western Rain Creative, of which she is the founder. Western Rain Creative specializes in brand and value chain development and marketing strategies for farms, ranches, D2C producers, and locally sourced restaurants. Western Rain Creative is on a mission to build reciprocity between people, brands, and the land bases that support us. So today, Claire's going to paint a big picture of what branding is and how to make marketing decisions based on where you're at in your business, which we're stoked about. I learned a lot just from our preview yesterday, so I'm excited for everybody here.
We ready?
We're close. We're going to give it about 30 more seconds, and then we're going to share these results here, and then we're ready to go.
Right.
It's got a couple more, and then we're finished. Okay, and just to kind of share these, I love to share the results with everybody because it's interesting to see where we all overlap. So we've got a good constituency from the Northwest, but as usual, we also have a large chunk of our viewers from the Midwest and the Southeast. Welcome everybody. We've also got our Northeast friends. And wow, this is really interesting. So our group is made up of just about everybody. We've got meat brands, we've got custom and retail meat processors, USDA inspected meat processors, livestock producers, and non-livestock farmers, pretty much equal across the board. So thanks everybody for giving us a shot here. And what I love the most is that more than 50% of the group here is a combination of all those. So we have like diversified brands and businesses here. We've got a little bit of info about what you would like help with most in your marketing. So just kind of across the board, looks like 50% of us are, and this is where I voted, strategy and decision making. And then equally represented are the rest of the categories. Except for social media. I'm stoked to see that that's not the number one answer. When learning how to market my business, I prefer one-on-one sessions, and group training and workshops are tied for number one. That's fascinating. I love that. And then last but not least, marketing and building a brand feels. I know the value and I'm eager to figure it out. That's what I voted on. Like a huge part of my business, and like I need help creating systems to make it as easy as possible. Perfect. Thank goodness you're here. And that's what we're going to get into. So thanks everyone for participating. And Claire, please take it away.
Hello, everyone. I'm really, really glad to be here, and I'm glad to see all your faces. I'm just going to jump right in since David kind of told you about me. And if you want to find out more, you can ask questions when we're done. I'd rather just start delivering on some of the value that you guys are here for. So let's just jump right in. First of all, I like to just define like why we're here. You're here because you want to learn the value of branding and marketing when understood holistically, and then learn how to make decisions in your marketing that increases your LTV or your lifetime value of your customers, attracts new customers, and then builds resilience in your business. That's kind of why we all came here, I'm assuming, right? Great. And I will, just my personality, I will be saying things like, right, that makes sense, correct? Just so I feel like we're engaging and this is a co-creation in this process. So essentially the questions are, how can I use marketing to get more customers, increase the value, the lifetime value of a customer, and how can I ensure those things don't stop happening? So I'm going to share my screen with y'all. Just takes a minute, and then we'll start having some slides that we can go through and use this as visuals. I love technology. Okay, can everyone see that? Great. So let me get my screens all figured out here. Okay, so regenerative brand strategies for small meat producers. Again, like David said, this should be, if I'm doing my job right, applicable to you if you're a producer, a processor, a farm, a small meat brand. all of that should apply. So let's start by defining some terms, and then we'll kind of look at the lens that I approach my work and that we're going to approach our work together today, just so we can kind of all be looking at it through the same viewpoint, the same glasses, if that makes sense. So, what is brand? If you look on the internet at what brand is, you just Google what is brand, what is branding, you're going to get so many different kinds of answers. Lots of jargon, lots of industry words. They'll have infographics, and that brand is these 9 things, including your visual identity and your values, mission, processes, you know, all sorts of different things that basically say this all makes up brand. So I like to distill things down to like the most clear understanding possible. So what is brand? Brand is essentially the associations that people make between something known, that's often a feeling, an experience, an object, a service, and something unknown. So in this case, that would be, if they don't know your business, that's you and your business consistently over time. So it's essentially the associations people are making between something they know and something that they don't know. So a good example that we can all kind of look to is these things right here. So when you see a phone, when you see this icon, what are some of the things, and I would love actual, you can just like speak out loud. What are some things that come to mind when you see this Apple symbol with this phone? Ready, go. I'll start. Okay. I might say this is going to be different for everybody. I might say quality, you know, this is because I use Mac products. I might say, someone might say expensive.
Easy to
Anybody
use.
else? Easy.
Yeah.
Easy to use. Let's get one more. Anybody?
I think it's cool. Like I feel way cooler when I have my MacBook Pro than when I have my weird giant Dell laptop.
So David thinks it's cool. My handwriting is cool too. This could be lots of different things. It could be expensive, quality, cool, easy to use, innovative, either way. These words, these things that you're thinking, these are the associations that you make with Apple and Apple products. So this is in large part their brand and what their brand speaks to. So to simplify this even more, we could look at, it's essentially their reputation, because reputations are the beliefs and opinions generally held about someone or something. So big picture branding, what you're doing when you're branding is you are consistent. It's the consistent action of associating your business, something that people don't know about yet, with known things, feelings, experiences, goods, and services. Does that make sense? Does that simplify kind of like what brand and branding is? Just head nods. Yeah, I'm making some sense. Great. Cool. So these are the terms that we're defining. Now you guys can say, okay, brand is this. Branding is this. Now let's go to, my screen is frozen. Perfect. There we go. My approach. So this is the kind of the approach that we're going to take when you look at my website or you look at the description of what this webinar was going to be. It said a living systems approach or a regenerative framework. And so now I'm just going to give you kind of the lens that I approach my work and that we're going to be using in our work together today to help you develop some of these ways of approaching your marketing. So I like to sometimes define things by what they're not. So if we're looking at a living systems view of something versus a mechanical view, when I'm approaching this with you guys and the way I approach marketing, if I'm using a living systems view, then I'm saying this is a complex system. So there are interdependent parts that are interacting in a system that are unpredictable. Health and value emerges, and the system exhibits dynamic and adaptive behavior. Essentially, super simple term or super simple way of thinking about it. If it's got a living something in it, if it involves humans, if it involves a land base, if it involves anything that's alive, it is going to be a complex system. So that's the way I approach my work, is using kind of that view because it involves people. Versus if it was mechanical, then I would approach this as like, oh, there's a clear beginning, middle, end. This is linear. This is solvable. This is predictable. This is reductive. And we improve this with systems and processes. That is not how I approach marketing. That's not how I approach branding. And our work today, again, we're looking at this through a living systems lens. So in living systems, there are holes that are nested inside other holes. So when I'm talking about your branding and your marketing is a part of the whole business system that you're working within, which is the part of your life, which is another whole system, which is a part of your region, your community, your niche, your market, just kind of this ever expanding ripple out of whole systems nested within each other. Does that make sense? So the mechanical view would be like, this is a part, and I can take something that works for me in my life, take it out of this kind of like linear machine, it's a part, and put it into your life, and it should work the exact same way. We know that doesn't work because we're not machines, so we're working in wholes. A huge part of the work that I do with you guys and the things that I want to help you learn is to see things as developmental versus prescriptive. So specifically when it comes to marketing, if I'm telling you how to do something like a cue ball effect, like do this, hit this, this happens, if this, then that, that is this prescriptive way of solving a problem. Again, it's all mechanical versus developmental, meaning the most valuable thing that I can do with you guys is help you develop into somebody who can make better decisions in your business and in your marketing. It's the simplest terms, the simplest way of describing it is the old give a fish to a man and he can eat for a day, teach him to fish and he can eat for the rest of his life. That's developmental. It's literally like developing your ability and your capacity to make good decisions and navigate things in your business with healthier outcomes. And then finally, like evolutionary co-creation, this is the lens we're looking through in our work together. Everything is going to be unfolding. So it's things that we're doing, the work we're doing is in co-creation. So we are working together. I have expertise and experience, but I'm approaching this with you guys as I'm not the expert. It's not a hierarchical kind of like, I know best. Instead, we are co-creating, trying to understand your unique context and how we can work together to, again, have these like healthy outcomes emerge. More customers, happier customers, more value in our customers and in our relationships versus the kind of command and control top-down way of looking how we work together or how our businesses are functioning. Does that feel good? Does that make sense? Kind of understanding like how we're approaching this work together and how I look at marketing, branding, and business development in general. Yeah. Are we all kind of understanding on the same page?
Well,
Okay.
I think right now a lot of the things that we see, I mean, at least a lot of the marketing and UX design email chains that and newsletters that I subscribe to are really like, here are my 5 tips that will get you 2,000 new followers, or like it's super, super prescriptive. And I think that that's like everything that's out there right now. And so what you're saying is that there's another way. It's not that
There is another way,
other than
hopefully.
guru culture, right?
Yeah. So, David, that's perfect. So, if I was to say what's wrong with the tips, advice, strategies, and stuff that you're getting in marketing today, like 80% of the stuff that's out there is 2 things. One, it's prescriptive. So, it's saying do this, then that. Take this strategy or these tactics and apply it to your business. So, it's prescriptive instead of developmental. And 2, it doesn't take into consideration your unique context, where you're at in your business. So if you go online and you're looking for marketing tips and someone says, you need to grow your TikTok this way, or you need to do email this way, or you need to do social media this way, but they don't have any context of where you are in your business, it just is not nearly as valuable. So what we're going to do now is we're going to kind of do the opposite, where I'm going to give you an understanding of first a worksheet that's like, okay, let's look at what my context is. Let's look at where I am in my business so that I can use a framework for marketing that considers that and is fit for me.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but like I feel like everything I just get bombarded with basically recommendations about how to grow my social media presence. And like I don't really love social media or spending endless hours on it, especially as the only way to market. So I'm particularly interested in this because I feel like a lot of the things that I'm getting in my inbox like don't really fit me. or
Great.
NPAN, you know.
And there's just so much noise out there. Again, at the end of this, I want you guys to feel like you're better equipped to make decisions and know where to start. So if you get through all of this, you filled out some worksheets and you're like, okay, the next best point of leverage to get customers is emails. Emailing reaching out through my email list. Then you can start working with somebody like myself, or you can Google how to do the best way, the best way to do that, knowing your context. But it's about knowing where you are and what is the best first step that's going to make you more resilient and just more capable of managing this kind of complexity in your business and in your marketing. Because I know there's a lot of noise out there. So I'm going to put a link in the chat. Let's see, I guess I can do that, right? Meow. So that you guys can get these worksheets. You can download them on my website. But I'll just go through them so you can see what we're talking about. Man, I have so many screens up. Chat. Paste. Okay, so you don't have to download this now. This is available. This is just something I made just for you guys, trying to think about what would be most valuable for you. So we know the problem with marketing right now today is that it's prescriptive. It says do this, then that, and it doesn't consider your context. So in order to create a better system for marketing and getting customers, retaining customers, first let's consider our context. So you're going to look at this worksheet. And essentially, this is understanding your unique context is what will enable you to manage the complexity that is inevitable within your business. Because again, complexity is inevitable when we have dynamic systems, people interacting with people and land bases and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully it'll help you make better decisions about how to grow, where to invest your attention and resources, and when. It's essentially a bird's eye view of your business within your value network. So the mechanical way of saying that would be your supply chain, but I'm trying to expand us to think about really the value network, and that's including our communities and our land bases that we rely on. So you're going to go through here, and again, this is so essential for pretty much anything you do in business. What is your business purpose? Why do you exist? What problem are you solving for? Another way of saying this is, what are you trying to transform? What are you trying to change? You can work on that forever. That's going to be, again, kind of an evolving thing sometimes, but you should know that, what problem you're trying to solve. If you don't, then I can help you. Okay, so then who are you solving this problem for? Who do you currently serve? And some of you might have a primary and a secondary person or a community that you're serving. So that could be, you guys know best. So I gave you 2 spaces here. Who are your customers? And then I want you to define who is in your value network. Who do you rely on to operate? Your customers, your suppliers, your employees, your partners, your core decision-making team, family, friends. This is imagining your whole value network. You can just list them off here. And all of this and why I'm asking these are going to make a lot of sense once we kind of get to the framework. And then I want you to think, keeping in mind, now you know what branding is, you know how it correlates with reputation, the associations that people make with you. How must we behave to ensure the support of those in our value network into the future? So if you're thinking about branding and you put yourself in your customer's shoes and you say, I want our customers to see us as reliable and innovative, or have the best customer service, or the best products that's delivered with ease, super easy to navigate, and simple website, whatever you want your customers to think about when they think about you, I want you to write here, how do we have to behave so that stuff comes to mind when they think of us, those associations, and that kind of reputation. Okay, moving on. What land bases do we rely on to operate? So again, I'm just asking that you guys kind of expand your mind out to this nested holes and think about, okay, I'm a farmer, or I'm a rancher, or I'm a producer, processor. What are the land bases that we're kind of relying on for our business to operate? And that could be simple as I mean, you can put like Jefferson County, or you could put a specific watershed, or you could put my 100 acres of land. Well, but that's also connected to like this larger thing. So I'm going to put that too. If you are getting, I don't know how many of you are getting cattle or meat from other regions, but you would include those. Does that make sense?
So like basically the geographical regions that are directly related to the business that you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say like if you're looking at your value network and your value chain or your supply chain, what are the land bases that you need? That's kind of silly. The land bases that you would put on there that are supporting you in your work. And then you're going to the next question as soon as it pops back up. Now I know I can't let my iPad sleep. So far, does this feel good? Am I going too fast? I get kind of like excited, not nervous, but excited. And then I just speak really fast and I go through things quickly. We all kind of, this is a reasonable pace so far. I'm just looking at the people that I can see their faces. Great. Okay, so then the last question is, what land bases do we currently steward or have the ability to steward? And again, this is just because like my way of trying to get you guys to think of how in your business you are supporting the larger network and the larger ecosystem that you are a part of. So how are you stewarding? If you are a farmer or a rancher, that's going to be easier for you to define. But if you're in a processor or a brand, like what is it about the way that you operate in your business that helps steward, or what could you do to better steward those land bases that you're a part of?
So just I have a couple questions about that.
Right.
So let's say hypothetically I'm a processor in Eastern Washington, and I've got let's say I make sausage and bacon, and I've got a producer that's 3 hours to the east that raises hogs, and they're a regenerative farm, and that's really who I want to be my supplier forever. I don't want to start getting, you know, pork from Iowa. I really want this to be like a local product because that's a major value proposition of mine. Would an answer to this question be like, I want to foster a closer relationship, or like support this producer's business operations, or invest in their team in order to ensure that that supplier in that region stays with me into the future? Is that kind of...
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything from, I hate to use like the analogy, but this is, or not the analogy, but you could easily say like, what are we doing to create a healthy impact that's helping the land bases that we're relying on? And so like, how do we steward that relationship in conservation, or in essentially assuring that those land bases are going to be healthy and productive into the future? So if you're working and partnering with people where that's a priority, that's a great way. Like, okay, I'm prioritizing working with people that are evolving their business to work better with land in their natural systems and increase biodiversity and stuff like that. This could be if you're if you can't quite connect it all the way back to those land bases, this could be, all right, we try to use increasingly sustainable products or packaging, or just start thinking about like, what are the things you do on a daily basis that are having a positive effect on essentially the land bases that you are relying on to support you in your business. It's kind of like a mind exercise, right? This is not going to be a right or wrong answer. It's just something for you to start considering how you and your business can be more proactive in stewarding those land bases that you rely on. That makes sense? Okay, great. All right, so that's your context. Now you have this worksheet and it's done. And again, like, done is better than perfect. So don't worry too much about like, oh, but I don't know, is that our purpose? Like, just write it down and move on. You have your context, and this is going to be super valuable when you're starting to think of a marketing strategy and using the framework that I'm going to give you. The other part of your context, and this kind of goes back into your resources, is I am we. So as if you were the owner of your business and you start making decisions about what needs to happen with your marketing, my guess is that it's going to be most advantageous if you can be the one that's not doing them. If you can have somebody else do them for them, that for you, that's going to be more leverage for you. Also, I always like to say I like to keep the farmer in the field and the craftsman in the workshop. This is about you knowing what you're best at, what your most valuable role is in your business, and then figuring out how your team fits into other parts of that and how you can start delegating some of that work so that you're not like in charge of literally everything, especially when it comes to marketing. Okay, so I am we. Who are the decision makers in your business? List everyone that is capable of making decisions along with their role. This should be everybody from the owner to the ranch hand, the person answering phones, the employee delivering products, anyone who has the ability to make decisions in your business. Also include any unique talent, skill, or interest that they have that is or could be an additional asset in your value network. So again, I don't know if this makes total sense. You guys like, oh yeah, this is a great exercise. Or some of you are like, what is this? And what does this have to do with marketing? Just bear with me. So you're going to put the person, say that you are the owner. Say that your role is operations manager / co-owner or whatever that is. And then talent, skill, interest, you could, and this is a great exercise to do with everybody. Or if you're not sure about somebody on your team, you can ask them. That's a wonderful way. Like, what's there some general interests that you have outside of just work? Or you can do this as a team. So if this was the person is Bill, he's the owner and he's also in charge of operations, talent, skill, interest. We could say Bill's actually a really great writer and he has this innate ability at developing people. That's the kind of stuff you're going to put under talent, skill, interest. Well, we can get back to that later. So does this make sense? Kind of like you're just taking inventory of who we have, what they do, and what other aspects they have that are interest, skills, and talents that can be developed. Okay. All right, now we're getting to like the framework for finding your customers and increasing the value of their customers. So again, like defining why we are here. The questions you should be asking in your business when it comes to marketing. What do I do so that I can get more customers? I can make the customers I have a longer lifetime value or LTV. And what can I do to ensure that those two things don't stop happening? When it comes to finding customers, there are essentially 8 ways that you can get new business and leads. There are 4 things that you can do, and there are 4 things that other people can do. And if you can think of other things that aren't on this list, I bet I could probably tell you, actually, that goes into affiliates or that's outbound. So I'm going to blow through these really quick. I think a lot of them will make sense. And then we'll kind of get to like the nitty gritty. So here's the things that you can do. Warm outreach. Who's familiar with warm outreach? If you have your face on the camera, just like raise your hand or say, yes, I know what that is. Great, perfect. So warm outreach, under this, it can also be called owned media. These are people who you know that you already have relationships, you already have rapport with, and they've already got a sense of trust between the two of you. So this can be family, this can be friends, this can be people who have bought from you and you have already established trust with them as far as customers. So these are people that you have relationships with and trust. Cold outreach, outbound. This is kind of the opposite. So this is anybody that doesn't know you, and outbound marketing, cold outreach is stuff like cold calling, sending out flyers or mailers, putting up a poster in a grocery store. This also includes if you're sending emails to an emailing list where people have come and signed up for like a newsletter, but they've never bought anything from you. They don't have any like sense of, they've never interacted. There's no trust there yet. That's still going to be cold outreach. If you're DMing people that follow you, but you don't have a relationship and built kind of a sense of trust, that's still cold outreach. Then there's content, and this says earned media. So I'm just putting, you might hear these called different things. Content, this is organic content. So this is stuff that you're putting out into the world that you have seen, decided based on your customers is valuable to them. And if your customers, potential customers, excuse me, if your following likes it, more eyes see it. So that's how algorithms work. So your content is, if you put out an Instagram post about some trick that you're doing on your farm or something that you're doing in your business, and people like it, then the algorithm shows it to more people. That's organic content. And that's what the kind of like another initial way of start building that trust with people, for them to see you as like someone they want to do business with. Does that make sense? As far as like what content does? And then paid ads. Paid ads are, we all know what those are. So those are things that you pay for to get eyes on your business. So that could be paid Facebook ads, that could be Google ads, that could be an ad in a newspaper. Those are things that you pay for to somebody so that you get to use their audience and draw attention to your business. So those are the things that you can do. Now let's look at the things other people can do. Referrals. So referrals are just that. If you make a product or you provide an experience, or you provide a quality product and experience for your customer, and they tell somebody, that is a referral. That's pretty simple, correct? Like, it's, you get a customer once, and then that customer is stoked on what you've delivered, and so they tell somebody, and now they come and buy something from you. You have another customer. Referrals. Employees are kind of in this like referral zone, but they're a little bit different. So instead of customers, employees, if they're treated well, they believe in your product, they know why you exist, they know, the ins and outs, and believe in what you're doing, then they are advocates for your business. And they're also getting customers just because they're telling people about you and how pleased they are to work and be associated with you. And then we have affiliates. So I'm sure my feed, I'll tell you, like my feed, as far as like Instagram or TikTok or any kind of social media stuff, it's all about marketing, because that's what I do. So I hear about affiliates all the time. I don't know if you guys do, if that's something that comes up, but affiliates are essentially strategic partners. So these are people who you've decided to partner with in your community, and the partnership makes sense so that they can send customers your way. So if you're a processor and you do specialty game processing, a good strategic partner might be someone who runs an outfitter and does guided hunts, so that when they have success in their business, they're like, oh, we've got a really great guy for you to go to process your meat. So that's a strategic partner, and these can be paid. There could be like a kickback. Oh, you get 10%, or it doesn't have to be paid, but essentially you have a relationship and rapport with someone, and you say, let's work together. And then the last one that other people can do to get you customers, get you leads, is an agency. And that's someone like myself or a larger business that you say, can you do this for us? I have the resources to pay you to do all this for me. So, yes.
I have a question about affiliates.
Yeah.
So when you want to approach somebody, like let's say I'm a custom processor or a USDA processor, and I want to approach like the local 4-H club, for instance, and say, I want to process all of your 4-H animals that come fall time, right? How, like should you, when you want to approach an affiliate, someone that you see as being a strategic partner, should you show up with a treat in hand, or not, but like, or like, should you show up with a plan to offer compensation? It feels like everything is monetized today. Like every thought, every share, like everything like you have to offer to pay, like rightfully so. A lot of people, especially when it comes to the ag community, aren't paid for their time or their knowledge, right? Like no doubt about that. But should you approach affiliate conversations or scoping conversations with an offer in your pocket, or like how do you build free win-win partnerships? And that might be a whole other conversation, but like I'm just curious.
No, I think that's pretty easy. So if I don't know you and you want me to like recommend you, I'm probably going to need some sort of like incentive. That is, and I personally don't, I'm not an affiliate type person, but I have a lot of people that I care deeply about, that I've built relationships with, that would be more than happy, because they know my work and my quality, to recommend me. But it's about having the conversation where you just ask, like, hey, if you know anybody that's looking for XYZ, I would love if you sent them my way. And if you know this person well enough that you know that they're either struggling or they could use a little bit of extra, like, kickback or whatever, and they're like, I would love to help you, like, any business you send my way, I'm happy to send you like a XYZ. Like, it's about knowing who you're trying to build that partnership with. If it's a complete stranger, what's getting their attention is like, oh, shiny flashy money or whatever that is. But if it's someone you know, it's just about being strategic in those partnerships. And maybe like with my friends and the people I've worked with, I give them the words to say oftentimes. Like, if it's not clear what I do, like, okay, the best way is, if you know someone who's looking for X, Y, and Z, you just tell them, like, I do X, Y, and Z. And it makes it really easy for them to kind of like help you in that way. Does that make sense, or clear that up a little
Yeah.
bit?
Yeah, I think there's part of me that, like, I'm curious about where the line is drawn between, sometimes when there's affiliates, other people are kind of like, well, they're scratching their back and they're scratching their back. And like, for instance, if I said, hey, 4-H club, I'd love to process all your fair animals in the fall, and I'm gonna donate X amount to your organization every year. Like, is there like a line of ethics, or is that like actually just a total construct based on
I mean, I feel like
jealousy?
so much of this is context and just how you look
Yeah.
at the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you look at the world as like everyone's trying to get something, then that's probably the kind of energy you're going to be putting out and the stuff that you're going to be getting. But if you look at it as like, our industry is literally built, or our community is literally built on the richness of the connections and how we can support each other, then that kind of energy when you're approaching these situations is going to be much different. You know, you can, and just get comfortable asking. I think it's very normalized for us to feel uncomfortable asking for help or asking for how we can better support each other. Like, I've been in the done service industry work for 20 years, and my favorite question is when someone just comes behind you and says, how can I support you? Like, how can I support you in this moment? So finding the language to do that kind of stuff, to build these connections and build this like resilient community of people that are supporting processors, producers, and everyone in your value network, that's what we should be doing. And if there's the fear of, oh God, it's like I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Well, yeah. That, let's normalize us supporting each other and not thinking of it as this like extractive thing. If you feel like it's extractive, then maybe you don't have a good product and you're asking someone to like support you when they don't want to. Like, hey, will you tell people about my sandwiches? And the person's like, oh, your sandwiches are garbage. Oh, well, I'll give you 20% of every sale. It's like, okay, does that kind of like help
Yeah, it
set
does a
the
lot. And I can,
context for it?
yeah, I hadn't thought of that angle at all, and that really makes a lot of sense.
And affiliates, we're going to get into like where we're going to start in this. So I want you guys to understand, like, okay, now I'm going to look at my context, and now I'm going to figure out where I start in this as far as getting customers and making customers more valuable. Affiliates is a big one. Strategic partnership is a big one. And this speaks to you just building a robust, again, I use this word a lot, a robust and a resilient ecosystem around you in producers, processors, brands, all of that kind of stuff. So moving on, I want to have enough time for questions that I want people to fall off. Okay, so when we look at leverage, leverage is getting more output per unit of input. So if you are a business owner, you should be looking for points of leverage. Like, where in my business can I put in a certain amount of effort and get more output? This is a very mechanical way of looking at it, but it's also, you can look at the seed. Like, where can I plant the seed that I nurture and grows into 100 more seeds? You know what I mean? So if I'm actually going to try to draw now, word of mouth, if I make a good product that people want to talk about, and I do that once, and I focus on quality product and quality customer experience, Then that customer tells somebody that becomes a customer, that tells somebody that becomes a customer. And what you have is you have a compounding vehicle in your business. I can't stress enough that this is the one thing that you can do in your business that you don't have to put in more effort to get a higher output. So if you tell one person, if one person's stoked, they tell another person who tells another person, and it just goes on down the line, then what your curve looks like for growth as far as getting customers is like this. And what you had to do is you had to create one thing once that was awesome that people wanted to talk about, and continue to like hone in on making it better and better and better. But you had to create it once, you have a happy customer, and they continue to tell people. So that is the highest point of leverage in your business as far as marketing, is getting people to talk about the thing that you're doing. And to get people to talk about it, you make a good product, you make a good experience, and you really, really understand what your customer needs and what your customer wants. Everything else is, so when we look at this, warm outreach, cold outreach, literally everything else in marketing as far as where you can get customers and where you can get value in your customers is linear. So it looks like this. If I put in 100 units of effort, then I'm going to get this much out. If I put in this much, then I'm going to get this much out, and so forth. So the more you put in, the more you get. Word of mouth, make something good once, and the growth happens for you. Does that make, like, understand like really the value in referrals and word of mouth? So try to not rush through this, but make more sense. So does anyone have, like, I just want to make sure that we all kind of understand how important making something good once is, not because it's the right thing to do, because as far as branding and getting people to talk and getting customers and the value of your customer to increase over a lifetime, this is the only way to do that. Okay. Let me look at my notes just in case I'm not saying something that's super important right here. Leverage, linear growth, exponential compounding growth. Okay, so now we're getting into strategy. Now we know that leverage is getting more output for every unit of input. We know that the highest leverage in marketing is going to be customer referrals. We know to get customer referrals, we need to have a good product and a good customer experience. So now we're going to get to strategy. So what do we do first? We are going to, next part of this kind of worksheet is we're going to list all the things you know you need to do to create a better product and a better experience for your customer so you can deliver excellence and they tell everybody about what it is that you do. We all have that list. We all have a list of the things that we should do, that we know we should do in our business to make our product better and the customer experience better. So you're going to check back in with that context that we just made for you, your unique context, so that you can focus on who you serve now. And then you're going to write your list. So now you have this list. And then I want you to think about all of these things that you have on your list. When you look back at your context, you have a whole list of people, of their roles, what they do, and their unique talent, skills, and interests. So then you're going to see them as like, okay, these are possible people that I could delegate this to as the owner. Okay, so you have your what are you going to do? You have probably who's best equipped to do that. And then this is another part of kind of your strategy. So you have your list, and now we're looking at this metric, or this kind of graphy thing right here. You're looking for the things that you could do in your business out of your list that are going to create the most impact and be the easiest thing to do. So if you know that you need to, make sure that all of you need to answer the phones faster, or you need to hire someone to answer the phones, or you need to You don't have a website. You know that people can't really find you. It's not easy to find you. You need to do that. Whatever that list is of the things that you know that you need to do to make your product better and the customer experience better, you're going to put a number next to them. So this is going to have the highest impact and it's going to be easiest to do. We're going to give those ones. So then you'd be like, okay, I know I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to do this. That's going to have on this grid the most impact and the easiest thing to do. So we're going to give that a 1. And I already have the person to do it. He's great at that. So perfect. Bill's going to do that. Then you're going to think of the number 2s. This is going to be high impact, less easy to do, but it's still going to have a high impact. So that, okay, that's this. We're going to give this one a 2 and this one a 2. We know that Sally can do that and Steve can do this. It might take them a little bit longer. We're going to have to like schedule a day for it, but no problem. So then we're going to do all of the 2s. Then, oops, this is your 3s, things that have lower impact, but are pretty easy to do. And then these are your 4s, which is low impact and difficult to do. 4s, we can kind of just maybe skip. So you have this whole list and you're going to put yours, all your 1s, all your 2s, all your 3s, all your 4s, and you're going to go down and you're just going to start completing these. You're going to do all the things that you need to do first to make your product, your customer experience better, that have the highest impact and the biggest ease, amount of ease in your business. Those are your number 1s. And then you're going to do all your number 2s. And then you're going to do all your number 3s. And then you're going to like probably not do 4s unless they really need to get done. Does this make sense right now? Okay, so we're breaking down, essentially, we're making priorities based on impact and ease. That's what strategy is, a long-range plan for achieving something or reaching a goal, or making the skill of making such plans. I definitely just like copy and paste that because that's not a very good definition, but it's prioritization. So now you have this list. You know, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to focus on getting referrals. We're going to focus on making a product that people want to talk about because that's the best compounding vehicle in our business when it comes to marketing. So what do we need to do to get people to talk about our stuff? What do we do first? We have all of this listed. Then when you've done everything and you have the best product and you have the best customer experience, and again, like this is a never-ending list. The bigger your business is, the bigger this list is going to get, but it's just putting into context what you need to do for your unique situation first. So now you know, like, okay, we did the thing and we know that the highest leverage, the best place, the way that we're getting the most business is when we have, when we go to market and we X, Y, and Z, or when we send out emails that ask for referrals, or whatever that thing is that you've found brings in the most business. This is where the majority of business owners go like, great, that's working. Let's do something new. Let's start a new product. Let's get on TikTok. Let's just do something new because we are humans and we like shiny things and we like chasing stuff because they're novel and they get us excited. I want you to do the opposite. I want you to say, okay, now we know this thing that's working, that's getting us more customers. How can we do more of that? What can we do? What can we build into our company and our business, in our team? How can we develop our team so we can do more of that? How can we process more? How can we show up to market with more beef? Whatever those things look like for you, how can we do more? And then once you've tapped out and you're like, okay, for this one particular way that we're selling, we can't do any more. How can we do it better? So I want you, this is the metrics for like, first we're going to do the thing that works more of it. And then we're going to try to do it better. How can we do it better? And then when all of that's done, we can get to the new thing. Does that make sense? Okay, so say you have an amazing team, you have these people that have all these unique skills and you're developing them and everyone's working together. It's just this like beautiful ecosystem of success. And you have done all of the things to make an awesome product and an awesome customer experience. And then you start doing things that encourage referral programs and you're doing all of this stuff. And now you're like, we got this dialed, Claire. What's next? Come on, let's go. So then you're going to go to the next, back to your little grids here. And you're just like, what is the next most leverage that I get for the amount of energy it takes me to do something and the return that I get on that energy. Again, this is majority of the time going to be things other people do for you. So we could say affiliates. How can I start working on having more strategic partners that support me and I can support them? They're recommending people, or this could be employees. Like, what do I need to do so that my employees love working here? They feel like they have a skin in the game when it comes to changing the lives of our customers. They understand what we're doing. They understand what our mission is, and they are, advocates and telling everybody about us. What do we need to do so we have those kinds of employees? So then you would do that next. And then the rest of this is just going to and then I would probably go to, let's see, so we did referrals, check. We've got awesome partners. We're building a resilient, just like ecosystem of people around us. Our employees are stoked. They feel like they have agency in this business and are connected to our mission and making the lives of our customers better. Great, they're telling everyone about us. Then honestly, during the majority of this, you're probably going to be doing a little bit of content just so you have eyes on you, and that's okay. But I don't want you to take like your whole team, be like, all right, this is the thing we're going to do. I was watching Instagram. There's this new thing. It's reels. We're just going to make reels. Like, that would make zero sense, especially if you're only selling, again, we're going back to your context. If your customer base is local or regional, you getting on a national or global platform and putting your energy towards Instagram and building an Instagram ad or Instagram following or TikTok following or Facebook following, but they can't buy anything from you, that is not a good use of your time. Does that make sense? Great. So then you're just going to go back through, okay, then we did that. Then we did that. We're kind of doing content all the right. We're going to do warm outreach. That's awesome because these people already know us. These people already trust us. Like, how can we deliver more quality service and experience to them? What can we do there? Great. Cold outreach. We'll give it a go. No problem. That's going to be, again, like a numbers game. We do 1,000 calls. We're going to get, XYZ amount of people interested. So, and then very last, this agency one depends on your resources. So if you got the resources to pay someone else to do this, to bring in people that have the expertise and the experience to do a lot of this for you, great, do that. But essential is that you bring somebody in who understands your context. If you're paying someone off of Instagram or Facebook or a webinar and you're like, oh, they've got this great program, I'm just going to go through there and then I'm going to be great at marketing, or they're going to do it for me, but they don't have any context or any idea of where you're at in your business, and you don't have the ability to say, this is what we need to do first because this is what I'm very clear, this is what we need to improve, this is what we need to work on, so this is where we need to start. If you don't have that context, hiring an agency to do it is just going to charge you a lot of money to kind of like that one size fits most model. So if you find someone like myself, or it doesn't even have to be me, you find someone who knows your market and knows your niche and asks you these questions and co-creates to help evolve your marketing, great. And you have the resources and the money to pay them, great, do that. The last one I would do is paid ads, because that's just, attention is not cheap anymore. Maybe in like 2013, Facebook ads were like, great, super cheap. That is not the case anymore. Okay. Woo! It's hard to distill all this information down to like a PowerPoint. But I hope that this is like big picture, giving you an idea of like, at the end of the day, the thing that's going to be the best for your brand, the best for your business, are people that are talking about your business, the people that are stoked about the services that you provide. And so when it comes to marketing, people like, oh no, that's like more internal operation stuff. No, getting your product and your service and the customer experience dialed so that people are just talking about you is the only compounding thing that's going to be vehicle in your business. Everything else is totally figure outable, but knowing your context, knowing who you're serving, and knowing the region, who your customers are, where they are, is going to help you understand, like, where do I even start with all of the things that I could do. Whew. Okay. I hope
Great.
that this was valuable to y'all. I would love if you guys have questions. It could be about this. It could be nothing about this. It could be like, oh, I have this thing that I'm doing. It's not working. What should I do? Um, I would love to just field some questions from you guys, you gals, you folks. Um,
Let's start with one. I've got one that started in the chat a while ago, and then we can continue through. I've got a few that were sent to me before the session via email that I want to hit before we go. And if we go over today and anybody has to drop off, we'll continue to record and just stick through the questions until the end, because ultimately the live roundtable part of this is really important to us. So yeah, let's dive in. The first one's from Chelsea. Chelsea asks, what's the definition of a regenerative brand and how do I know if we are one? And they are a USDA processor and small consumer packaged good meat brand.
I love this question because just the debates that go around like defining regenerative in general. What is a regenerative farm? What is a regenerative business? And we all know if you don't like, we all know what happened with organic and greenwashing and like what is most likely already happening with the word regenerative. People are like, ooh, this is a new term. This is a new thing. This is making my whatever. For me, regenerative just means that you are approaching your business holistically. You are managing the complexity within it so that the outcome creates health for people, planet, obviously your profits, like that's essential. But when I think of regenerative, I think of the outcome becomes the end result becomes the input for a healthier outcome. So it's a closed loop. I'm always thinking about what a regenerative in my mind. I work with the Savory Institute a lot. They're doing holistic management. There's a lot of regenerative ag in that industry or in that. I'm very familiar with it. So when I think of regenerative ag, I think of a human who is managing a very complex ecosystem, using everything in that ecosystem, specifically helping manage them so they're in a role that is making the whole healthier. So if what you're doing is, again, let's compare it to sustainable. So if you're a sustainable business, or if you're a sustainable farm, you could be sustaining a system that ultimately long-term is garbage. Like you can grow strawberries every year and you have sustainable practices, but the soil that you're growing them in is just it's not getting any healthier. It's sustaining kind of this like doable level. For regenerative, I just think everything needs to be getting healthier.
I think it's really, really difficult to put this into perspective for meat processors, because our industry, like let's face it, is extremely wasteful, right? There's a lot of packaging that gets thrown out just to do a changeover on a roll stock machine, sometimes wastes 50 to 100 feet of plastic that you can't use and you have to throw directly away, right? There's misprints on labels that you have to throw away. There's a lot of customers don't take the bones and don't take the fat, and there's all these states that don't, like California, that simply don't allow for composting yet. It's a system that has historically been tremendously wasteful, and I think, Claire, would you agree that like it doesn't have to be perfect, but there's a lot of ways to be regenerative? And from an employee standpoint, having the best onboarding program and having a training program that increases employee engagement and like keeps encourages employee retention and longevity, like, is that a way to be regenerative in?
I mean, for me, the biggest thing, it's really a mindset. So like if you're approaching your work as a linear system where it's inputs and outputs, then there's no way that can be regenerative. If you're approaching your business and your work as this is evolving and it is my role to develop this in a healthy way so that we are creating the conditions for health to emerge and be the outcome, that to me is a regenerative framework, a regenerative mindset. Like what is my role in managing this in a way that health is the outcome across the board? Health for my people, health for my industry, health for my community, health for the land bases that support us. Like that's the mindset shift for me. I personally wouldn't call my business regenerative, because that is a word that I just, that's why I try to focus on living systems principles. So a complex system or a complex solution versus a complicated solution. Complexity, you rely on principles, whereas complex, you rely on like very rules, principles versus rules. So it's, for me, a framework, and I'm happy to give you a lot of reading that you can, like, Carol Sanford is a wonderful place to start if you're looking at like, how do I build a regenerative business? Um, as far as like where you're at in processing, you know, people are going to come be like, how are you regenerative? You're wasting all this product. Well, then just don't call yourself regenerative. Like, it's less about what you call yourself and more about like how you're approaching your work, how you're approaching managing your people, how you're approaching managing and contributing to your industry, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. I know there are some third-party certifiers that will come, slap a sticker on your facility to say you are a regenerative facility.
Oh.
I've worked for, but that like, again, I think you, to your point, you really have to have the mindset, because I know certified organic facilities that are cutting every corner and exploiting every loophole they can to have that label, that sticker on their label, that badge on their label, but really, like, are they really embracing the mindset of organic? Or are they just meeting the bare minimum requirements, having a lobbyist at the NOP convention trying to get this one particular detergent approved because it, like, is more convenient for them. So I think it's the mindset, right?
I think it's a mindset also. Like, if you look at organic versus regenerative, verified organic means that they are looking at your practices. Like, do you do this? Do you not do this? Do you not do this? Do you check these boxes? Great, organic. Regenerative, if we're looking through the lens of like the Savory Institute, for example, because that's what I'm most familiar with, they have an ecological outcome verification process where you can get a verified as a regenerative producer. And you do that because they come and they measure your outcomes. So they say, creating healthy outcomes, there is not a formula for it, and you need to figure out how to do that in your unique context. But what we're going to do is we're going to come and we're going to see, are the things that you're doing creating healthier outcomes for your land? More carbon sequestration, more water filtration, more biodiversity, these kinds of markers. So in that sense, like regenerative, you're looking at the outcomes. Are these outcomes healthier because of the way that we're managing our business than they were before? Are we creating healthier outcomes versus are we checking the boxes saying like, oh, people say they're happy. Oh, we're recycling. Oh, we're blah, blah, blah. So in the worksheet for your context, I specifically asked, like, what are the land bases that you rely on? What does your value network look like? So when you think about like, are we regenerative? You should answer that for yourself. Are we creating better outcomes for the value network that we're embedded in, for the systems that we are a part of? That is our goal. And it could be really small. It could be like having a conversation with your ranch hand about like what his interests are, and then working as a manager, as an owner, to develop that person so that he's capable of making better decisions that have healthier outcomes in your business. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. I've got a couple of questions. Does anybody have anything before I dive into the ones that have come through via email and text?
It is so weird talking to a silent group of people. This is not my normal like MO. I'm usually like very back and forth and yada yada, but that's okay. I get it.
Okay, I'll move on to one that I got. Let's see. So um this one comes from email. How do I alert customers? How do I alert consumers' customers that they aren't actually getting locally raised meats, even from locally owned shops who claim that they are sourcing locally raised meats in a classy and non-wordy way? So what I think is like, how do I how do I out
Well,
the lack of integrity around me without doing it with doing it in a classy way that doesn't damage my business?
Okay, this is a great question. And I have a metaphor, like a parable story that I always, because I don't get this question a lot, but this is something that we all deal with. Like, I'm doing a good job, but people don't know that that person's not doing a job, whatever that is. So one is going back to like a developmental framework. I would start putting out content or put out emails that say like, here's a checklist or here's some essential questions to ask anybody that you're buying meat from. So you are essentially helping develop your consumers into more educated, curious people. So they feel empowered to make the decisions instead of saying like, this person's not doing that. If you can develop relationships with your customers where they trust you and they're thinking that they're benefiting from you because you are teaching them how to make better decisions in their lives, then that's going to be way more valuable. So that's one way. It's like, okay, let's just do a checklist. We know like so-and-so down the street is doing a terrible job and people don't know about it. Let's just start shining a light on what people need to do to make good decisions in their buying process. That's one. The other one is my like, has anyone ever heard of the chickens and eagles story? Okay, so chickens and eagles, both birds, both have their value. Not one is not better than the other, but the difference between chickens and eagles is chickens peck at the ground and they have a very like narrow view of what they're seeing in the world. Eagles fly really high. They have a huge perspective. They focus on like the possibilities in front of them. So they're very different. No one's better than the other, but the one thing that the eagle does not do is worry about what the chickens are doing. Does that make sense? So like in this situation, I understand the temptation to like get angry about what someone's doing and how they're running their business or how it affects whatever. But at the end of the day, like where you put your energy grows. So focus on how you can just like remain high, looking at the big picture. Chickens and eagles, because there's chickens everywhere. But hopefully that's helpful. I think educating, teaching your customers how to ask better questions when they're buying stuff is always going to be valuable. And then it positions you as a leader in your industry. It positions you as someone who knows what to do and how to do it. And it positions you as someone who gives a shit about your customers and wants to help them make the best decisions in their lives. Sorry if we're cussing. I've gone through this whole thing with only cussing once. Sorry.
This reminds me of a story, and I'll keep it really brief, but I used to manage a meat processor in Michigan.
Uh-huh.
I used to manage this meat processor in Michigan, and we had a big customer. Okay, and I was a new manager. I didn't know any of the customers. We had this customer. They were a big place. We'll call them Middleman Meats. And Middleman Meats, their whole deal was they didn't have certified organic or grass fed on their labels, and they claimed it was because they didn't want to go through the rigmarole of the label approval process. But it was on their shelf talkers and it was on their promotional materials at their farmers market stand. It was all beyond organic and regenerative and all this stuff, right? It was all over their farmers market stand and their trailers and everything. And one day I was out very early on in my career there. I was unloading a trailer that came in. It was a big livestock trailer. It was the same trailer that came every Thursday afternoon and came from the stockyards. And it was basically what was left after the sale. It was like the bottom of the barrel, all the burned out milkers and the lame Holsteins and all, all the weird stuff came on Thursday afternoons. And when I was receiving, I said, okay, who's this for? And they said, oh, this is for Middleman. So wait a second. That can't be. Middleman's Meats is all homegrown, beyond organic, certified, it's grass fed. It's all on their ranch. He said, you ever been out to their ranch before? They got 5 cows behind their house that are all they're all dairy cows, and there aren't any steers on the property. Go take a look for yourself. They just buy up the crap at the end of the auction. And I had no idea. And I used to get very, very angry about this because first of all, my employer said, hey, they're our biggest customer. If you tell anybody, we're going to know it's you and you're fired. And the second thing was, like, I just like, it made me irate and it ate me up for a long time. And I left that job still very, very angry about that. I never did say anything because I couldn't afford to lose my job at the time. And what's interesting about that is that they ended up getting caught. It completely ruined their business. They went bankrupt, they lost their farm, they lost their reputation, and they ended up having to move out of their community. I've heard this years later, right? So does it stand to say that, based on what you were saying earlier, Claire, that it's all about the quality, that quality and integrity will prevail eventually?
Yeah, I mean, and it's like remembering the stuff like your grandparents say, your mom says, like criticize in private and praise in public. So if you are in a position where you want to call somebody out on something, instead figure out like, who can you praise? How can I praise my customers for making good decisions? How can I educate them so they can make better decisions? And if I need to say something or it's endangering the health of somebody, like I can do that. I can like find a back road, a back door to do that personally with that person. But that stuff never works out for those people like long term. Because here's the other thing about brand. That's my dog. There's brand equity and there's brand debt. Everybody knows that debt is really hard to get out of unless you have just like this influx of support, resources, all that kind of stuff. If you start doing stuff in your business that's creating brand debt, meaning all the opposite things that you want people to associate you with, like, oh, they kind of cut corners, and oh, they are really slow to X, Y, and Z. That stuff is a lot harder to make up for than brand equity. It's just like a bad Google review is the only thing that people read when they're looking at Google reviews a lot of times, versus like the 400 5-star reviews that you have. That's this like idea of brand debt. And these people that are running businesses, they are not creating brand equity. They're definitely creating brand debt. And eventually, like everyone, that just doesn't work. But I would spend less time worrying about them and more time figuring out how you can grow your business long term.
Okay, let's see. Another one. You mentioned focusing on getting a great product.
Mhm.
We're told that the minimum viable product and don't let perfection be the enemy of well enough is the standard. And we're all competing with these online brands who make mediocre products that have a precious story. Will high quality I guess it's the same question I just asked. Will high quality win out in the end?
Yes and no. And I say that because what large producers and processors and brands have that small people don't have is the capital, right? So they can have a mediocre product and then they can pump a bunch of money into getting people to buy it. When I talk about quality as it applies to you guys, I'm saying that again, we're going to leverage, like, this is the best way to get people to talk about your product and talk about your service and your customer experience, so that those things can continue to grow just because you made this one good thing. You're going to have to continue to get people to relate to you and to understand what you stand for, what your values are. All of that, those two things work together. But as far as like marketing and selling, so selling and marketing are two different things. If you don't have a very good product, you're going to spend the rest of your life trying to sell that product, trying to convince people why they need to buy it. If you've got a really great product, people are going to buy it, they're going to tell people, and while they're doing that, you can work on telling your story, getting people to understand who you are, what your values are, and kind of like feeding two birds with the same hand. But if you don't have a good product, like, why would you spend time or energy marketing it? You know what I mean? I think that Dave and I were talking before, and I said, I don't remember where I heard this, but some people try to get customers to make sales. If you're trying to get customers to make sales, then your end goal is sales and profit, right? Is making money. Other people, and I will say businesses that have been around for a long time, we'll call them legacy brands, they try to make sales to get customers. So if you're making sales to get customers, then your end goal is finding people that you are building relationships with that will last over time. So it's kind of like framing it that way. Are we trying to just make sales to, are we trying to get customers so we can make sales? Because if you're going to do that, you're going to be selling whatever it is that you're doing for the rest of your life, versus marketing, which is like strategically figuring out how you can connect with people that you intend on making their lives better. I hope that's useful. Again, like so much of this just comes down to like what is the goal here, right? If your goal is to make a quality product, quality experience that changes the lives of the people that you're seeking to serve, then that's the best place to start. When I think of like brands, I try to put into like perspective. What's a brand that I could use as an example that's done this? I like Filson. Is everyone who I see your faces, you know Filson as a brand? Probably. So when Filson started, I doubt that Filson was like, all right, how are we going to sell these coveralls? Who are we going to sell these coveralls to? Filson started because they're like, we do this thing and we need good coveralls. We're going to make the best product that we can that serves this function, that makes this kind of work easier, better, safer. And then the people that bought them are like, oh, these are the best. These are the best. These are the ones that you should have, hands down. So Filson started with the idea of like, how can we solve this problem and make the best quality that doesn't exist out there? And then, you know, the rest is history. I hope that's a good yeah, someone's gonna talk.
I'm sorry. I just have a question about your thoughts on how to best convey. I'm so sorry. There is an ambulance outside my window right at
I
this
can't
moment.
hear it at all.
Oh, good. How to best convey, you know, with the cost of meat. We're a direct to consumer ranch. We do wholesale and online retail and farmers market. So, you know, our prices obviously are different for our wholesale as they are for our direct to consumer, but our margins are pretty similar, and they're very low, honestly, because of the cost that goes into not, you know, outsourcing a lot of, you know, we own our own land, lease land, all that. And, you know, we have customers who love us forever, and then they're just like, you know, it's just really hard for me to spend $50-something on a ribeye. And I'm always trying to use the messaging of, you know, there's a true cost of cheap meat. You know, our animals live longer, our employees make a living wage, and we put a lot of care into those things, and trying to outcompete when someone says, I know, but I can get it at Costco for, you know, half the price. And just sort of, I don't know, your kind of recommendations on, we try to be as transparent as possible with saying like, look, there's a lot that goes into meat, and it's not that we actually aren't making the $50 that you're paying for that ribeye at all. Like, you know, maybe we're making $12 of that ribeye, you know, at the end of the day. And so without saying that, you know, exactly to our customers in a way that, anyway, yeah, your thought on dealing with even right now, we're all dealing with the high cost of producing meat in general in the United States, and sort of how to properly convey that to customers and how they can still support local ranchers and farmers, with, you know, people aren't making a ton more money right now, you know, in their bank accounts. So that's sort of my main question.
Yeah, I mean, it's such like a big, complex question because there's so many parts of it. The way my brain works is I think of like 1,000 things, and I try to figure out like which one should I start with. So if you know that your customer base is struggling to pay a price for ribeyes that they could get cheaper at Costco. A couple of questions come up. How can you provide value to them that they can afford? And if they are trying to support, if their values are to support a locally sourced, humanely raised meat producer, but they can't afford your ribeyes, then how can you start educating them about the other cuts that you provide that are in their price point? And then that's where I would start, is start getting creative and start, again, like helping educate and develop your consumer to be smarter in their decision making when it comes to buying. And then give them the opportunity, say, hey, we have some incredible cuts. If you still want to get your cheap ribeyes at Costco, I get it. Like, more power to you. But I know that it's really important to you, because you've been with us for so long, to support local, humanely raised meat. So we've put together some cuts and then a recipe booklet for you that really makes it super simple for you to still support us, but at a price point that you can kind of manage right now, because we know that's important to you. So do you see how, like, I'm framing everything from the customer's point of view? If you have customers, all they want is ribeyes and they don't want to do any sort of rounds or roasts or anything like that, that's kind of a different beast, then go find people who feel good about spending more on ribeyes. Honestly, like, so this sounds shitty, but solve rich people problems and you'll make more money doing it. So if you want to sell $55 ribeyes, then you need a part of your business needs to be focused on connecting with consumers that $55 is a drop in the bucket and they feel good about supporting this XYZ type of business, right? But if you still want to be connecting with the people that have supported you and want to continue to support you because of their values, not because of their like status and ease that they have just throwing money at something, then figure out a way that you can allow them to do that and meet them where they are. That's what I would do. So, and also, like, getting back to like make it once and then make it work for you. If you created a recipe booklet or recipe cards, and I'm not like everyone does this, but like get into that person's brain. Like, okay, they are worried about price. They're going to Costco. They like buying things in bulk. They're probably start like seeking ease. So when I make recipes for them and I'm going to include it in the next email or include it in the next thing, it's going to be like recipes. It's going to be a shopping list. It's going to be instructions. It's going to be a beautiful photo. And when I have that and I deliver to that, I can now deliver that to anybody, right? So I had to make it once and now it's going to be useful for everybody that might be interested in, buying from you guys. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Kind of two-parter, like figure out how you can help the people that want to support you for the values, and then also like who's paying. There's people out there that have so much money that would pay $55 for a ribeye without blinking, and you know what those people don't want to do? Deal with the lines at Costco.
Yeah.
So, that's just different marketing. Hopefully that was helpful.
It was, thank you.
Because ultimately people want things to be easy. We are busy. Everybody wants our attention. Everybody wants our time. We're all trying to do a million things, too many things. When we finally like sit down and figure out like what we're going to eat. If I had someone that was like, oh, buy this, it averages out to like $9.99 a pound. Here's a list. Here's how to do it. Here's a link to an app that will get the groceries and deliver them for you. Like whatever that looks like, just make it easy. Anything else?
I think, and this is for another time, I think it would be great to do either a follow-up or do a podcast episode that we could discuss this more, Claire. But personally speaking, I know that I have worked for many companies, I oftentimes work with companies that are in the middle of a turnaround and are struggling and need some help, and I'm there to help them with operations, right, and to smooth things out and increase their margin on the production floor. I have a lot of interaction with the sales and marketing teams as well as the financial team in order to operationalize the financial goals that have been set forth in order to turn the company around. And one of the things that, you know, like let's say hypothetically, I played this replay. I replayed this episode for the marketing and financial team and said, look, this is where we need to focus our efforts. I think we need to kind of embrace this very classic, but also super progressive strategy of focusing on quality first in relationships first, you know. And I get pushback and say, that's going to be too expensive. That's going to take too much time. We don't have time. We don't have time to change our culture right now. I would love to talk in the future with you about some practical strategies to get these balls rolling. When you have owners that are like just rabid for dollars and maybe stuck in some old ways and aren't thinking holistically. I'd love to talk about some practical strategies, or like maybe run through a couple of these examples with some case studies or some scenarios sometime, if you'd be up for it. Because
totally. I mean, that would be a good challenge for me. The reason why I love working with y'all is because you are hands-on owners. Like, I'm very specific about working with people that have the ability to make decisions within their business. So those are the owners, versus like absentee owners are like, we just invested in this thing and now we want it to make more money. Like, I don't have a lot to offer them probably. But you also, in this industry, you have a mindset that is like, you're playing a long game. You already know it's a long game because of the nature of your industry. So when you're thinking about decisions and like, oh, that's going to take too long, that doesn't necessarily come up quite as much when I'm working with people in ag and hands-on owners, craftsmen, creative entrepreneurs, because they're like, no, this is the long game. We know that this is going to pay off in dividends if I just do it right now. But I would love to walk through that and see what we can come up with.
Cool.
It's hard to tell people, like, everyone wants a silver bullet. Everyone wants like, oh, if I just do this thing, if I just literally pull this lever, then all the money's going to start coming. If I just say the right thing or sell the right thing or market it the right way, then all this stuff's going to come in. And that's just not how it works. That's a very mechanical way of looking at systems that we exist in, that are based in life and interconnectedness and interactions and yeah.
Great. Well, if anybody else has any other questions, now's the time, or forever hold thy peace, or at least just until, you know, you think of it, and send me an email. This is all going to be, again, it's been recorded. It's going to be posted in the link that I put in the chat. You can also just go to nichemeatprocessing.org and go to our current events and webinars at the very tip top. Click on that. It'll take you to the landing page for this. And then I'll have a link to Claire's website where the worksheets are, where you can go through the exercises. The link to the replay will be there, as well as Claire's presentation. And on her website will be her contact info if you want to chat further.
So, I will say too, if you go and you click on the worksheets, I made these just for you guys. This didn't exist 3 days ago. I mean, it existed, but not in this like exact framework. If you go to my website and you want to download those worksheets and then you want help going through them, I'm more than happy to do that. Like, free of charge. We can sit down, we can Zoom for an hour, and I can help kind of like walk through that process of the context and go through this stuff again, because I want it to be useful and valuable, and not just like, oh, another thing I downloaded that's supposed to change my business, but I don't really know how to use it the right way. So you can just send me an email. It's on there, or find me in the ether and Instagram or whatever. I'm happy to help.
Great. And next month, on the last Thursday of the month, as always, for the rest of the year, we will have an NPAN Live. Next month is going to be Ask a Plant Ops Expert with Charlie Bierne, who has had a long time in the beef industry. He is a boots on the ground operations expert who manages several beef plants, all the way from operations through sales. And then the following month after that is actually, that's in 2 months. In August, it's going to be a roundtable discussion with Denise Perry, formerly of Lawrence Meats, talking about deregulation in the meat industry and how we can maximize the loopholes and exploit the opportunities we have in regulation today that you might not know about. So yeah, we're going to have an open discussion about what the Prime Act might look like if it got voted into existence. So it's going to be a spicy one. Thanks everyone. That was super fun, and we'll see you next month. Claire, thanks so much for putting this together. I learned a ton between yesterday and today, and I'm excited to put these things into practice.
Thanks. I really appreciate this and you guys being here. It helps me try to figure out how to like clarify stuff that just rambles around in my head, and I appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Bye guys.